everyone. We're so excited you could join us today. We have some great things that we're going to be talking about. And what we're going to be talking about is how to teach children about money. So with that, I am Amy McMaster. I am with Community Action's Financial Opportunity Center. And I also have a wonderful guest with me today. Robert, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Robert Culpepper III. I am the co-founder of LaFa Publishing and the author of Money Saves a Lot.
Wonderful. And then you also have a partner that works with you
Yes,
on these.
as well, Chris Johnson, who's unable to join us today, but he's also the co-founder of LaFa Publishing with us.
Wonderful. We are so glad you could join us today. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I was born in Detroit, and I grew up in Northwest Ohio. I went to Napoleon High School, graduated from Napoleon. Went to Bowling Green State University, and then I worked for J.P. Morgan Chase for 5 years. And currently, I'm living in Florida with my two daughters and my wife.
Wonderful. Well, we have some great things to unpack today. And what we really want to talk about is financial literacy. So kind of how we work with money. And as we're going through here, I want everybody to kind of think to yourselves, what do you wish you knew about money management that you could teach to your children? I know as I have been going through life, my children are grown, but there were just things that I reflect back on that I wish I had maybe shared with them more, or things that I know I did a good job in. And so today we're going to be talking about basically 4 steps to teach your children about money. So number 1, we're going to just be about talking to children, bringing up the information. Step 2, reading books to children about money management or about money ideas. Step 3, we're going to be talking about playing with children and doing some role playing, and we're going to unpack that as well. And finally, then letting children be able to actually do those steps or practice with the children. So let's talk about step number 1. It is you. You are the most important teacher in your child's life. And so, Robert, could you tell me a little bit about how that works as well? How does the parent have that role?
Well, with financial literacy, being able to have those conversations with your children, whether it's around budgeting or when you pay your mortgage or your rent, just having conversations about where your money comes from and how you're spending it. So grocery bills, things like that. Just being able to find some commonality and help them understand. Even going to like the gas station and getting snacks, just having a simple conversation around, well, if you want the chips, you can't get the donuts. And so just kind of setting some boundaries and having some conversation with them around money management and budgeting.
Absolutely, because children are watching you as the parent. They idolize you. They want to be like you. And so they're watching how you spend money and how you save money, how you share your money, how you borrow your money. And so just opportunities. If the kids find a dime or a nickel or a quarter in the parking lot, talking about it, talking about what it is, how they could use it. And so you just doing your daily life, you're teaching your children about money. So step
Absolutely.
number 2 is reading. So reading books to your children and then kind of asking them questions afterwards. So reading is a big part of the time where you can carve out and just spend time discussing these things. This also is a good time to bring up the concepts of money and money management and credit and savings and all those pieces. So Robert, can you share a little bit about your thoughts on reading to children about money management?
Yeah, of course. Children, they're sponges, and so the more you read, the more they're going to really hold on to those foundations and the concepts that you're reading to. So whether it's science or money, whatever the case may be, children really retain that type of information. And so the more you can read to them, the more stories you can read to them that deal with money management, the more likelihood they're going to have some long-term success.
And we've got some tips here as you're reading these books that have themes and topics about money, what you can do to make it fun. So during the story, you can use fun voices, right? So you can sound tired or happy or quiet or loud. And then being able to ask your child, what do you think is going to happen next before I turn the page? Or maybe even give them ideas about what the character should do or shouldn't do. And then maybe even ask the character in the book, how do you think they feel about this? So just make it very interactive as you're reading? And then, Robert, can you unpack what they should do after they're done reading the book?
Yeah, of course. And so after you get done reading, you want to ask them some questions. What was your favorite part of the story? Ask them if they have like any kind of examples, or maybe something that they've heard about, or some maybe conversations depending on the age of the child that they may be having at school, and maybe what they would do differently if they were that character in the book as well. And so really just picking their brain and getting their wheels spinning around what they would do if they were within the story.
So these are all great tips. And now that we're talking about children's books that talk about money, we have a suggestion. So, Robert, you wrote a book about Bonnie Saves a Lot. It's about Bonnie and her journey through learning about money. And can you tell me a little bit about how you got this idea and how it became a book?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I was working in banking. And while I was working in banking, I realized there was just a gap in knowledge around how banks work, money management, budgeting, people getting tons of fees, myself included. I'm not perfect. And so I had my first child, and I just wanted to understand how I could potentially impact her and give her the information to hopefully give her a long-term success in her life around financial literacy. And so that was really the basis of Bonnie Saves a Lot.
I am in love with this book. The illustrator has such beautiful characters, and I love the way that you just kind of show parents their journey as they teach Bonnie about money, because it's not something that we grow up with. It's some families don't talk about it at all. Other families are really good about it, and that's what today is about. Is just getting those tips to kind of start early, so that when they get to 18, they're not having to start from scratch. So
Absolutely. And really our approach, Amy, is financial literacy is like a second language. And what we know about learning second languages is the earlier you can introduce a second language to a child, whether it's Spanish, French, German, whatever it may be, the more likelihood you have for long-term fluency in that language. So introducing these concepts early, foundations early, are giving your children the foundation to learn this second language of financial literacy, which a lot of adults are illiterate in financial literacy. And so just being able to help them early on get some of these concepts and foundations for that long-term success again.
I love that concept. I love the idea of that it is not natural to be good with money. It's something that you just kind of have to learn and experience. And so
Yeah.
it is. It just feels like a second language. I love that, Robert. So, what is your book about? Could you unpack what it kind of covers and why it'd be good for a parent to read to their child?
And so this is the first book in the series, Bonnie Discovers Money. And within this book, it's going to be all about money. And so identification, counting, what money is and how it's used. And so within the book, they're going to the grocery store, and Bonnie's just getting a little antsy, wanting to throw things in the cart. And so mom realizes, hey, maybe we need to have a little conversation with Bonnie about money and budgeting when we go to the grocery store. And so that's what the first book is about. Is all about money, identification, counting. And so you have some math aspects in there. You have, as you have on the screen, the word of the book, so that you can start talking to children about, okay, so this book is about money. This is what money is. Then there's also some activities in the book as well that will help children at the end of the story also.
And then there are also more books. So just it's one of those things we're going to talk a little bit about how you can get a hold of Bonnie Saves a Lot and where you can access it. But you don't just stop there. There are more books. You can ask your librarian if she recommends books that can help you continue those conversations and be able to have more opportunities. And then the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau also has a Money as You Grow club, and they have suggestions. So there's a website there that you can be able to access that. So we've talked about number one, just you as the parent or the guardian in their lives, them watching you. Number two, reading to them. And now we're to the third step, which is play, where you kind of give them an opportunity to understand how it works. They get to be able to role play you or a cash register, example, things like that. So we've kind of
So
broke it down into different age groups. And so for ages 3 to 5 years old, they usually can count money. So it might be good just to have some change out. Make sure that they're not going to put it in their mouth. So we want to make sure that they're being supervised as they're counting this money. Maybe helping them recognize the different things between a $1 bill and a $5 bill, or that you can use a debit card. Because I think a lot of us don't even have cash on hand,
yeah,
right? And then being
absolutely.
able to, like we said, play store where they have a cash register. My children loved to be able to pretend that they were taking my order for food, and they would go and make it. And then we would have fake money that I would give to them. I have spent hours playing that game. So, it can be fake money, it could be real money. It's just pretending that exchange of, I want something, and in order to get it, I have to give something, right? And then
Of
finally,
course.
kind of explaining how and where this money comes from. A lot of kids, especially young children, think the ATM is this magic machine that spits out money. They don't understand that you had to put it in there for it to be able to come to you. And so when you go to the ATM, let them understand that you maybe had Social Security benefits that came directly to the bank, or you had to go to work in order to do that, or friends and family had given money that's how you got it. And then maybe even at this 3 to 5 year old, talk about saving for college, or that could be a roll down the road. um, Robert, would you unpack kind of what things they could do for the next group, ages 6 to 10?
Yeah, of course. And so for 6 to 10, earning an allowance, like earning money, and how they earn money around the house. Uh, I always told my kids, like, you're not going to get money for like making your bed or taking out the trash. Those are just things you do as being like a member of the house. But maybe we do, you can earn money by reading books. And so for every book you read, you'll get a quarter or whatever the case is. And so that gets them in the mode of, maybe reading a book, and then they come to me and say, oh, I read a book, and they get their dollar, they get the quarter, whatever the case is. Piggy banks are great. Kids love to use their piggy banks. They can, put their money in there. My kids have coin counters and rollers where they can roll up all their coins after they've collected it for a little while. Then also having some conversations around budgeting. I'm going to tell a quick story, Amy, around budgeting. And so I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And back in December of 2020, they were going to, like, 3 weekends in a row, they were going to birthday parties. And so the first 2 weekends was only my oldest daughter, and I took both of them to the store though. And so we go into Target. As we're walking in, I'm saying, listen, we have a $20 budget for this gift. And so they're like, well, what's a budget? Like, well, a budget is how much we're going to allow ourselves to spend for this gift. And so they walk in and they're grabbing, the $25 gift, the $45 gift, and I'm like, no, that's all out of our budget. Like $20 is our budget. And so finally she grabs something that's like $10. I'm like, okay, that's $10. Like, you can grab that and something else. And so she's like, oh, okay. And so, like, you can see the wheels starting to like spin in her head. So we do the same thing the second weekend. And then the third weekend, both of them were going to the same birthday party. And so they walked into the store in the mindset of, what's our budget? And so, is our budget $20 each? Is it $20 combined? Like, what's our budget? And so my 7-year-old, she's grabbing things, and my 9-year-old is like, no, that's out of the budget. You got to grab something else. And so, yes, I could have spent the extra $5, the extra $10. Of course, I could have did that. But financial literacy and budgeting is not spending it even though you can, and having the discipline not to spend it. And so they kind of got that concept within like the first couple of weeks of like, okay, this is a budget and we're not going to spend more because that might take away from McDonald's next week or whatever the case is. And so having those conversations with kids really gets them like very early on thinking about it. And so now we go into the store and they're like, well, what's our budget? And I'm like, well, I didn't say anything about a budget, but I'm glad you're thinking about a budget.
That is amazing how quickly they caught on to that concept, right? Like,
Yes.
and I love that your older daughter was kind of teaching the younger daughter. So that's kind of how this all works, is we learn things and we pass it down to the next generation. And so that made it fun too. Like, when we're talking about money, sometimes it can be, there's bills and it feels like there's never enough, but sometimes it can be fun, like thinking about, well, if we're able to save, we can do this. So it gets them kind of learns how to set goals, but it doesn't have to be sad, right?
Absolutely.
And then the last one that we haven't talked about is kind of like playing board games or any kind of game. There's lots of them out there. The first one that comes to mind is Monopoly, where you're actually buying property and you're losing money and you're gaining money, and you're
Yep.
investing and all those pieces. But I think there is another game that you've mentioned too that is related that they could play.
Yeah, the game of life, I think is really great as far as teaching you the game of life. And so, it has different concepts around like paying your bills or paying for college, things like that. And so, there's different concepts within the game of life as well that will be helpful.
So, we've got the younger generation where we're reading to them, and then we've kind of got this older generation. So there's more pieces that they can do, but we can still have fun around it, right?
Of course.
And so now we're to ages 10 to 13, and that's basically where we kind of start more conversations. They have that beginner knowledge of what a budget is or what credit is or what savings is. And so maybe you ask them what they want to be when they get older. Have them kind of think about those future things. Do they want to be a doctor? Do they want to repair air conditioners? Like, all of those things are necessary, and just having those conversations so that they're a little more prepared when they turn 18. Perhaps another thing is helping them or letting them participate in meal planning, where they're looking to see and making the grocery list or adding to it, and then maybe even going to the grocery store with you and realizing, wow, $100 really doesn't buy a whole lot. And here I had wanted to be able to have guacamole with our tacos, but we're not going to be able to do it this week because, whatever reason. So again, just introducing them to the concepts and beginning to let them kind of share in those responsibilities. That helps you as a parent too, that you don't have to come up with the meal every night.
Right.
Another neat thing is when you're going, shopping to get clothes for the new school year, maybe giving them a budget, just like you did, Robert, when they're buying the birthday presents for someone else, is saying you need 4 pairs of shirts and 3 pairs of jeans, and here's $100. Go and make that happen, right? So it lets them see it's not that you don't want to buy them things that make them happy, but there's only so much that you can spend because there are other bills. Another
Yep.
neat thing, I love this idea, is explaining needs versus wants. So we have to have needs to keep our heart beating. It keeps us alive. So food, shelter, clothing, utilities, those kind of things. And everything else is a want. And it's not saying you can't have your wants, but you got to start with those important pieces. And so it's kind of like potato versus gravy. You got to have the potato. That's the most important part that gives you nourishment to your body. And the gravy is a bonus. And so hopefully you can do that. We have to understand just having gravy is not going to be healthy for your body. And then there's that other piece of, again, explaining how things work. We mentioned the ATM, that they can't have everything they want, and that the money has to be there before you spend it. And finally, another neat tip is being able to maybe make it fun or a competition. So I had a brother-in-law who would have his kids clip the coupons, and he would pay them for whatever money they saved. So the oldest, he did an excellent job, and they used to tease him that he would hoard all the coupons because he would make $10. But that really got him into that mindset of how to make your money stretch. And to this day, he is a great money manager, right?
I love that idea.
And so we finally come to that age group of they're just about ready to launch. They're not adults yet, but they're gaining some skills. So Robert, tell us what families can do with ages 14 to 18.
Yeah, and so 14 to 18, I don't know how things are now, but I got my first job at 14, and so great opportunity to open up a banking account, whether it's a checking account, a savings account, open up some accounts so that as they're getting paid, they can also put some money away as well. Explaining credit and how to build credit, and then also, if you haven't yet, a great opportunity to start building or saving for college as well. And if they're not going to college, what's the plan after college? Whether it's they're gonna maybe study abroad or they're gonna start working. whatever it is, start saving for that after high school experience.
There is research out there that if you save between $100 and $400 towards your child's education, that they are 3 more times likely to go to college. So if you can just do $10 a month for like 3 or 4 years, your kid is 3 times more likely to go to college. So that's another little trivia tip as we're working. So we've talked about you are a great resource as a teacher for your children on how they learn about money. We have talked about being able to read great books that bring up the conversation and get them thinking. We have talked about being able to let them have a role play in actually the concepts. And finally, there's these teachable moments. So we want to talk more about savings, how they can create money and accomplish those goals that are important to them. So Robert, you had mentioned in your book there are some learning activities. Could you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. We wanted kids to have some action after they read the story, and so at the end of the book, there's some activity pages. You showed the word of the day earlier, or word of the book earlier. We also have where they can match the coins with the name of the coin. There's an activity to also grab a handful of change with your parents and count change. And if they're siblings, maybe they can have a competition of who has the most change, whatever the case may be. And so just making it fun for children to interact with money and understand money and how it works, and just get them comfortable around it.
And then like a field trip. So actually take them to the bank or credit union. If you're going to get a loan for a car, like letting them see that process and what goes into it. So those are all pieces. So again, we just are so grateful, Robert, that you were able to share in this opportunity. We have went over all of these pieces, and we know that you guys have a lot more resources and ideas, and we would love for you to put them in the comments and let us know, how did you teach your children about money, or how are you bringing these concepts up to your kids? And so just to let you know, I am a free financial coach with Community Actions Financial Opportunity Center. I can help you as parents continue to learn about financial literacy and money management. I can help improve your credit. I can help you decrease your debt. I can help you get on student loan repayment plans if you have student loans out there. We can do what we call financial wellness, where we are working on 4 different buckets of budgeting, credit, savings, investing, and employment, so you can build wealth. So maybe the next step, if you've already got a savings account, is working on a retirement account or vacation. Whatever your goal is, a free financial coach can help you get there. So Robert, we have gushed about what a great book you have. How do they order it?
You can find us online at our website at bonniesavesalot.com. And then we're also on all social medias at Bonnie Saves a Lot. And so TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Bonnie Saves a Lot. But the book is available at bonniesavesalot.com.
Again, we are so glad you could join us and learn about some of these pieces to help encourage your children and be able to get them on a great foundation so that when they become adults, they feel comfortable with these concepts and can just continue to grow their learning. With that, we hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to hearing from you if you have questions. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.